Hello everybody, Ben Cathro here. We're back inside the tape for Pinkbike. This is round one of the 2020 World Cup Series in Maribor. Yesterday, bone dry. And most people were coming down here as a step down into the woods and then using this stump as a takeoff and then landing on the off-camber roots down there. Oh my god. So now they are, the friction coefficient has dropped significantly, and yeah, it's so slippy. So I haven't seen anyone gap onto them yet. So yeah, that's the tactic now, is squash the takeoff and then try and go light over the roots. And we've come to the rock garden because it has rained and this section is known as being really tricky. Oh my god! But interestingly enough, the way they taped it is turned into a straight line through big compressions. And that's turned out to be the fastest line today from what we've seen. Yeah! So we're going to change plans. We were going to ghost this section. Everyone's in the same line, so there's not much point. So there's a really tricky multi-line bit through some compressions a bit further down the hill. We need to go check that bit out. There it is. So we've come down to the lower section of the track, and it's one of the most fun sections of the track for riders. It's got berms, high lines, low lines, huge like motocross style looped out compressions, and there's a bit of line choice going on, and there's roots, and it's rained. It's not super wet in here yet, but we've got heavier rain later on in the day. Let's go down, we'll check out this section, see what lines are available, see how you do them, what works best, what techniques you need. Let's break this section down. So the section we're looking at, we're going to start it at the berm just behind me. It's a consistent entry point for everyone because there's no lines on the turn. Everyone is doing the berm. But then after it, three choices. There's a high line, a middle line, and a low. The high line sets you up super straight for going down the next straight. But it makes the compression bigger because you're coming from a higher point. Middle line, it's a little bit lower and it straightens you up a little bit, but it's not really giving you much of a better line into the next section, but you do get less of a compression and the roots are a bit flatter. And then there's a fully low line that if you're doing that, you've made a mistake because it makes the next corner super tight. So we think it's going to be between middle and high.
My name is Kate and this is my first run.
But then that section leads you into the next line choice. So there's a slightly off camber straight with a split, an inside line with off camber roots, then a huge flat out G-out. The riders can either try and go light over or go light into and pump the bike into it. If you go light over, you're preloading on roots. Very tricky. Yesterday it was working, I don't think it'll work today. So riders are most likely going to go like over the roots and drive the bike through it. But it is risky and it is a big G out, especially towards the bottom of the hill. So some riders will go wide and hit the scoot turn into a little bit of a fly off into the next straight. It's consistent, but it is a longer way and you do have to slow down to set up for. What's going to give you more speed out is really hard to tell. So what we're going to do, set up a ghost cam, we're going to watch some riders going through it and just see what's looking good. Some riders are going just silly fast this morning. We thought they'd be slowing down, but they're not. Here we go with the ghost footage again. We've done our best in here with the dark trees, and let's do some comparisons. Marine CABIROU is going to be racing TRACEY Hannah. They both come into the section, and this first split, TRACEY goes low and slips in a route, but she's coming in much faster, so even with the slip she pulls away from Marine. TRACEY and Marine both go to the inside line, but TRACEY, she must get off the brakes as she goes through this section. 0.29 up on Marine. Next up is Matt Walker and Finn Isles, and they both come in and go for the middle line, but you see Matt digs the tires in and swings out into the wide line. This must lose him a little bit of time. You can see he's falling behind, but then out of that wider, more supportive turn, almost catches up Finn, but it's still 0.08 back, with Finn taking this one on the inside. Time for a Santa Cruz Syndicate matchup with Luca Shaw and Loris Vergier. As they come into this first line choice, Luca goes high, but Loris stays low. Luca uses that high setup to then swing down into the low line on the next bit, while Loris heads straight and true through the big compression. Coming out of it, you can tell that Loris had pulled away. Loris is taking this. There may be fights in the pits tomorrow. And here we go, is the Instagram motocross boy matchup with REECE Wilson and Bernard KERR. They both actually take the same line here, but there's a difference in execution. REECE must just let off the brakes super early, with Bernard maybe doing a little bit of comfort braking in the wet. REECE pulls away at high speed. On these lines, REECE Wilson takes it by 0.23. We're going to use Vergier's clip again because he was one of the fastest through this section. He's going to match up against David Trummer. They come in and Trummer sets up nice and high, gaps over the compression while Loris goes low. Loris pre-jumps into that compression, but Trummer is already pulling away. That high line must have given him a faster entrance. David Trummer is taking the Inside the Tape trophy of fastest man through this section. So that's going to do it for Pinkbike's Inside the Tape from Maribor in the rain. We saw from the videos here that REECE and TRACEY Hannah were both going pretty quick, and that translated into the qualifying runs, with them both going fastest in the day. It's looking drier tomorrow for the race run, so we're going to see some absolutely flat out riding for racing.